Inti Creates makes very nostalgic games. Mostly known for their work on the Megaman series, they also, rather unfortunately, created a trash pile of a game that nobody wants to remember called Mighty No. 9. So when they announced they were creating an action platformer, I was pretty excited, but also reasonably skeptical. Was this going to be another lackluster experience, or was it going to blow me away with its gameplay and interesting characters? Let's jump in and find out. What's happening? Mattmade here, giving my review of Dragon Marked for Death on Nintendo Switch. The game starts out pretty dark, like really dark. It opens with a young girl being chased down by some knights, and those same knights straight up murdering a village. Women, children, everybody was getting it. The village is razed to the ground, and the girl, who turns out to be the Astral Dragon Oracle, is taken. Only your character survives. Seeing all of the destruction around you, you vow revenge against the perpetrators. This also awakens the Astral Dragon that protects and grants your people power. As one of the Dragonborn, whoops, Dragonblood clan, forgive me, I had to inject some type of humor in this dark and gritty Zack Snyder-esque game. You're granted the full might of the Astral Dragon Atum and then go on a quest for revenge. Depending on which character you pick, you have different abilities. There are two versions of the game. The Frontline Attackers version, which has the Empress and the Warrior, and the Advanced Attackers, which has the Shinobi and the Witch. If you're like me and you don't want to be limited to either pack, you can purchase them both at $15 each, for those of us in the States. Not a terrible price, but an unexpected choice given that you're only getting the other two characters with both games. Each character has different attributes and their moves greatly differ. The Empress excels at close and mid-range combat with her dragon arm. The Warrior is a great tank and lays down heavy damage. The Witch has cool incantations and great range. And the Shinobi is quick and has great movement options. Depending on your playstyle, one of these characters will fit you perfectly. If you're new to the genre or Inti Creates games, then the Empress is a great starting point. She has a lot of options to not only take out enemies, but get around the stage as well. She's the character I played the most, and I loved every second of it. Combat is fairly simple. You have your attack, jump, dash, your dragon power, and your secondary dragon power. How you mix these in is the really important part. If you go slashing away mindlessly, then you're in for a world of hurt. Knowing when to attack and when to back off are key, unless you're the warrior. Then there is no such thing as back, only forward. You can cancel out your basic attack and get a quick few swipes in before your enemy can retaliate, depending on which character you have. For the Empress, doing like a standard slash and then walking forward works. For the tank, you can do a jump attack and then a basic attack. And the Shinobi is just quick all around, so he's just a great DPS guy. As this is an action platformer with RPG elements, you take on quests in order to increase your level and be able to better equip yourself to take revenge on those who massacred your people. Even during the quests, everyone does not forget to mention how dirty and unwelcome you are due to your Dragonblood heritage. It's quite off-putting and hits a little too close to home at times. The quests start off fairly simple. Go here, fight mobs of enemies, and then beat down a boss in order to get the loot you seek. However, once you get deeper into the game, you get some really strange and sometimes really annoying quests. From having to help a balloon get to the top of a tower, to having to find someone missing friends in a tomb that is laden with traps. The game does do well with spicing up the tasks, and there were very few times I thought, oh hell, here we go with this again. But those times I really dreaded getting some of those missions. Most of the stages do end with a hard boss fight. However, many of them changed up that formula and instead either threw a gauntlet of enemies at you or put the difficulty throughout the stage, and once you fight your way through and collect what you need, you can leave. During boss fights, a dragon orb can spawn. This orb, which feels suspiciously like a smash ball, needs to be hit a certain number of times before you can activate it. Activating it will damage whatever boss you're fighting, and gives you a full health bar as well as an attack boost. This orb only comes when the boss is at low health, so it feels more like an icing on the victory cake than an assist when you're in dire straits. Now this game does have both local and online multiplayer. However, I have been unable to find a match to see exactly how it runs. Whether this is due to the game not having a large player base, or that for some reason no one wants to play with me, I do not know. With the local multiplayer, you and a few friends can link up and play. This method requires each person to have their own copy of the game, but is probably the best way to play with someone. This was a major gripe I had, as playing a game like this with friends or others would be a blast. Seeing 4 other people running around the stage beating down enemies and tag teaming bosses would be a thrill. Another odd thing with the multiplayer is that even though I have the game up to date, whenever I try to queue up, it'd say I have an out of date version so it can't queue me and give me other errors and timeouts. It was really frustrating and a huge blow to the game. The other gripes I have with the game are minimal and fairly small due to the fact that the game doesn't try to do something crazy or unexpected. It follows a beaten path and does so with its own styling gimmicks. Some of the levels are a bit random, and there are difficulty spikes between missions that are quite jarring. There's this one mission where you have to fight a kraken that does massive damage, only to have to go inside it and track down some treasure right after the fight. No break, no chance to re-up on items, no different mission, it just throws you right in. Another thing that I disliked about this game is that each quest is timed. You're given between 30 minutes and an hour to complete it, and a set number of times you can die before you fail. This feels really reminiscent of Monster Hunter and doesn't really make sense for an action platform. The levels feel complex at first, however you will soon find that there aren't that many of them. There are enough to rotate through so the levels don't get stale, and they change the configuration of the levels so that it's not exactly the same. However, they have the same base for the most part. The desert stage will have the sand pits and poison pools, the forest stage will have the open fields, etc. This isn't a knock on the game, as it's just $15, but it's something that I noticed and felt required mentioning. Another thing they did was section off each level. For instance, if you're going on a quest and you go to the edge of the quest area, there will be a barrier preventing you from going deeper into the level. This looks to be so that players don't become overwhelmed or get lost while trying to complete the objective. Again, something that is understandable but somewhat odd, as they don't do it everywhere. Sometimes there are boulders blocking the way, and other times there are gaps or the section just doesn't exist. Each area of the world does feel vastly different. The forests are lush and green, the deserts are, well, sandy, swamps are foreboding and creepy, and the cities and towns are vibrant and layered. They all help to build the world and fill it with history. Each area thrives in its pixelated glory. The character sprites also look really good. Everything in the game has quite a few animations to it, and it's fluid in motion, especially the shinobi. As he flips and dashes through the air, you see his hair flow behind them. He probably animates the best out of the 4 vengeful characters. Whether it be enemy, ally, or NPC, all the sprites are fairly detailed and look great in motion. The music is just okay though. Not anything you want to listen to outside of the game, and not anywhere close to the bangers that are in Megaman games. It assists with building the motif of the level or world, and letting you know what kind of area you're in. And that's pretty much all it does, and that's all I can say about it. It's there, it helps with the setting, but it's not great and it's not something you'll want to jam to. Which for a developer like Inti Creates, it's fairly disappointing. Overall, Dragon Mark for Death is a solid game. It doesn't try to break the mold when it comes to gameplay or mechanics, but not all games need to do that. Sometimes a classic action platform experience is nice, and this game has that in spades. With its interesting system with the dragon scars and each character's cool designs, this is a game that's definitely worth the price of admission, even if everyone in the story hates you because of who you are. What do you think of Dragon Mark for Death? Does it seem interesting to you? Did you even know this game was released? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below. And don't forget, if you're a fan of gaming, consider striking that subscribe button and hitting the bell. This is Mattmade, and I will see you tomorrow.